And that's why you should buy a soldering iron. What's going on, everybody? This is the Cover Band Confidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn to rock more and suck less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, Dan Ray. I don't think we've ever talked about it, but in the past, I have been a hobbyist in the RC aviation.
Oh, no, this
space
is not
model airplanes. And so, yes, I was a regular solderer of batteries and motors and controllers and things like that. Soldering is something I'm familiar with.
I do recall you know, your bass player also being in that field and then
he did
sawing his finger off.
He had an injury. I only ever flew electric and not very powerful ones. He flew gas engines and did nearly sever a finger at one point.
Whoopsie daisy.
It worked out okay, but he's not playing with me anymore for other reasons. But,
what are you going to do?
Yes. Yeah, Ben, hope if you're listening that the finger continues to heal and you're doing well.
Fantastic. So did you cut off any fingers this week?
No fingers. I will tell you what I did do though. Here we're recording this on Sunday night, the 22nd. Mm-hmm. Wednesday of last week was my anniversary, 30 years.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Communicate even when it sucks. That's the only advice I got. And the more it sucks, the more honest you need to be. That's the two pieces of advice. Anyway, we worked on Wednesday. It was fine. And then got out of town. I planned a little trip-a-roo, Friday night through this morning to Roanoke, Virginia, which is about not quite 2 hours from Greensboro.
Okay.
And I will tell you, I was just looking for fun town I've never been to, none of us have been to, within kind of easy driving distance, and Roanoke popped up. It's a fun town.
Okay.
There's a killer food scene, a killer cocktail and craft brew scene, and a killer, I think, live music scene. Pretty much every restaurant we went to and looked and read the menu in the window, there was also a live music schedule. On last night, Saturday night, as we were kind of walking around town, every door had live music happening in it.
Nice.
And I think Roanoke's a happening kind of town. I think it's interesting. It's the same size as Greensboro, about 1/3 1,000,000. But because it is in like a valley, it doesn't sprawl. It has like this downtown that's pretty dense.
Okay.
I think a lot of it was built up and then sort of there's nothing in it now. Mm-hmm. But that means there's a lot of space for new restaurants and venues and art places, and there's like a lot of creativity happening in what used to be a pretty well built up downtown maybe 50 years ago. Anyway, Roanoke, Virginia, if any of our listeners are in or around Roanoke, I was there and I liked it, and I'll probably come back.
Nice.
So if you have any advice for me on my next trip back, I stayed at I gotta look at the hotel, the Liberty Trust, which is a former bank.
Okay.
And their restaurant is called The Vault, and it's in sort of the bank lobby, and there is a table inside the old bank vault. And we had dinner there on Friday night, and it's kind of a tapas-y kind of thing.
Okay.
And on Saturday, we were talking all day about, God, those bacon-wrapped honey dates and that mushroom tart. Oh my God, the whole day we were talking how great that was, and had a big lunch, and then at kind of dinner time, we're like, I'm not hungry, but I'd go for that tart again. And so we just went in there and kind of reran dinner on a second night. Yeah, it was really good. The bartender there was fantastic. So yeah, big ups to all of that. And Roanoke, Virginia, if you're around, it's a good time. And I think there's a lot of good music happening there.
Shout out to Virginia, I guess.
100%. Yeah. I was looking at Richmond, which I think is a significantly bigger town, but further away from me. And then I was like, Roanoke's like an hour and a half. And it turned out to be, it's a really easy drive, kind of fun through the mountains, twisty and fun.
Yeah.
And it was a good time. It's a good time. I can officially recommend Roanoke, Virginia. Fantastic.
So let's see. In my world, we had a gig last night. This was the 80s prom that we've done a number of years. And I kind of alluded to last week that there was some chaos that I had self-introduced, and we will go over the things that worked and did not work. But I did want to shout out a couple of things. First off, there is a guy who has been the photographer for this 80s prom for basically the entire time that we've done it, named Juan. And we've just become like buddies because he come to the show once a year and we hang out and he'd take rad pictures. I mean, anytime that you've seen any sort of like promo picture of me outside of the context of the band, just like a solo performance deal, they've been Juan's pictures because he's just a phenomenal live music photographer.
Yeah.
And he's a musician. He's a bass player. He's got two bands. He's got a 90s thing and an 80s hair metal thing. Cool. And the band that I had mentioned last week that wasn't able to make the event this year was his band. Oh. But he was still able to come. So I got to see him. And the thing that has been really fun is that he joined the Patreon late last year and has been a part of the community ever since and has been a fantastic contributor and all of that. You know, Dan and I love meeting you guys in real life more than anything. And so anytime we get an excuse to like hang out with folks who listen to the show and kind of know what's going on, it's always amazing. And I got to bro down with Juan. I dropped a picture of the two of us into the Slack this morning.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait to see the pictures because he's a phenomenal photographer. And if you're in his neck of the woods, you should hit him up because he's fantastic.
There is a very specific skill involved in capturing live music. And I've hired some photographers who are really great at it and some that were just kind of taking pictures.
Yep.
But the ones that can really catch a moment and really catch an expression it's so valuable. And so it sounds like Juan is that guy. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. The thing that I love about this gig specifically is that at this point, it just feels like a family affair. So, we got to bring the kids to it. Other guys in the band brought their kids to the event, even though they didn't get to end up hanging out for the show itself because it started at 10. But it's like a thing where you get to walk around and there's a bunch of free arcade games and a cool midway with like vendors and stuff. Actually, if you look behind me, the Back to the Future and the Spinal Tap artwork back there is by a guy named Brad Albright, who I met at this particular event. And I showed this to Dan when he came to visit, but those are actually 3D images. So like you put on like the old school like red and blue 3D glasses and they jump out at you. So if that's something you're into, I'll shout out Brad Albright. I'll put his link in this week's show notes. I talked to him actually yesterday. I was like, hey man, just want to let you know, like your artwork is in my backdrop and all of our live streams and all of our episodes and stuff. And he brought out some really cool new stuff that I hadn't seen before. And I don't know how much room I have back there, but it might be time to add some additional stuff to the collection.
Yeah.
Not only that, but like, we get to hang out and we know the crew at this point, we know the promoters. And so every time we go in, it's just, it feels more and more comfortable. And it was just one of those nights. Like sometimes you go to a gig and you're like, why am I doing this to myself? Last night was not one of those nights. It was one of those like super gratifying, rewarding things where it was like, we just crushed and
awesome.
The crowd loved it. And the band was like operating just full capacity and it was great. We were down 2 folks, but we were still able to like make everything work. We were able to adjust the set list so that, we played to our strengths. And we thought we were playing for 2 hours and it being like closer to 75 minutes. We ended up doing 2 encores. Like it was just one of those nights where it was just like, it was super gratifying. It was really, really cool.
Love that. Yeah.
So things that did not work, alluding to last week, I was like, hey, I'm going to just swap these pick guards out. And I bought a soldering iron. How hard could it be?
Sure.
Turns out harder than I thought.
Yeah.
And I managed to take 2 strats that I was playing out pretty regularly and turn them into 0 strats that were available for this gig.
Yeah.
So my buddy John Bailey, who has been my guitar tech and former bandmate and amp tech and just like the greatest, guy around if you need that kind of work done. I texted him like, hey, if you got a second, could I ask you a question about like signal chain soldering stuff real quick? And then like 15 minutes later, I was like, update, can you rewire my Strat?
Right.
So he's like, I'm at the beach, but you know what? Bring it by on Monday or anytime after that. I'll get you taken care of. So
yeah,
I'll be doing that this week. It did give me an excuse to put some new strings on the Steinberger and play that. And man, say what you want about headless guitars or Steinbergers in specifically, you may not like the look of them or whatever. The Steinberger Spirit dollar for dollar is one of the most incredible guitars out in the market. Like,
and you've upgraded yours, right? Yours is not stock. So I feel like mine is a little bit wimpy. I feel the things you've said about yours pre-upgrade, I'm feeling, and I think I want to go deal with that. But I'll tell you, I fully get the thing about having a guy. I don't even mow my own lawn anymore, frankly. Like I got my guitar tech is Phil Poteet at Tone Technologies here in Greensboro. He's fantastic. He can rewire pedals. He can rewire amps. Like, you walk in and it's like mad science is happening in his office. And so I'm thinking about doing the same kind of thing you did with your Sternberger, because it's good. It's good, but it needs a little juicing up.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, there's certain stuff that I've done. So there are some upgrades as far as like the hardware goes. The tuning pegs, there's like an offset option where you can put them so that they're easier to kind of like adjust on the fly. The pickups were upgraded, and that's definitely probably the weak spot in those, at least on the guitar side. Jeff, our bass player, played his, and he's got the stock pickups, and frankly, the bass pickups sound awesome. Like, they're like, he's like, I'm not really feeling what you're feeling. I was like, that's fair, but for the record, like, his sound really good.
I always did feel like there was more adoption of that particular brand in the bass world than in the guitar world.
So what I ended up doing was I just got some GFS pickups. Like, I spent less than $100 on those upgrades, and it didn't take much. So I got two humbuckers and a like a rail style single coil in the middle. I just needed somebody with more output, and I added that, and that was all it needed.
Well, and the thing with me was I was trading between the Reverend and the Steinberger to go from my variety band to my 80s band. And I just noticed my patches were just thin. Trying to play through the same patch with different guitars, it just wasn't the same. Like you say, the output's different, and that's going to change the whole downstream.
Well, and that's the cool thing about that, is that if you measure the values of your pickups on the Reverend, you can buy a set that basically matches for the Steinberger and have a much more congruous, transition between the two devices, between the two guitars.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was awesome to play that, especially in like an 80s capacity, and it sounded great. I'd been tweaking my presets a little bit and added a bit more low end to kind of like my super high gain preset, and just like I was very, very stoked with the tones I was getting last night out of it. So let's talk about some other wins. There was some other stuff that I tried to implement into this gig, and wiring notwithstanding, everything else pretty much worked great. First one being the RJ45, audio over Cat 6 setup. Oh my God. I was like, this is probably going to work. Like, how hard could it be? The speed at which we were able to patch in the front line, I was like, oh, why haven't I done this before? Because to be perfectly transparent, I had friends and folks in this community go, you really need to look into this RJ45 Cat 6 EtherCon setup years ago. And I was just like, I don't get it. And that's like mental block on my side. I fully take ownership of that. Like, I should have been more receptive to it. And now I'm looking at the possibility of just setting up, this back panel on the wing rack where I have 4 to 6 EtherCon connectors and 4 to 6 EtherCon style
remotes.
Yeah, like snakes that go on the stage, and being able to patch ourselves in so much faster. And have everything else pre-wired.
Imagine having one drop that sits back, if you got a drummer who's playing an acoustic kit mic'd.
Yep.
And you could hand him the thing, and he could just plug right into it where he sits.
Yep.
Amazing.
It's huge. Never mind the fact that, like, you have a stage right drop, you have a stage left drop. The one thing that I haven't quite figured out yet is whether or not you can use it for your mains. That's a very interesting proposition.
Yes.
Being able to just be like, all right, we'll just take this to one side, this to the other. Because the thing we're always trying to avoid is, these super long cable runs. And we were doing the math on the EtherCon cables, because you can use just like a regular Cat 5, Cat 6 cable, but EtherCon has the shielding, and so you can run phantom power to it. It's not necessary, but it's a good thing to have. Yeah. And once you hit like 50 feet, you're getting to this kind of like less than $1 per foot kind of pricing. And that's kind of where the value prop really hits. But if there's anything that I can do that prevents me from having to carry this massive Pelican full of XLR cables that I'm currently carrying, I am game.
Right. So that means you could come out of all of your pedal board in a 1 foot XLR jumper into something that's way slimmer to carry.
Yeah.
Times all of the inputs and outputs of the band.
Yep.
Yeah, that's attractive.
I mean, thinking about it, like you would end up with like 10 to 15 XLR cables, like less than 6 feet. And then 5 to 7 EtherCon cables. And that's it.
Yeah.
You could put that in a weekender bag, something like super low profile, easy to carry, like doesn't take up any space.
Trader Joe's totes.
100%. Like yeah. I mean, right now, like all of our DMX stuff is in a 30 Rock tote bag that we got when we were in New York last.
Nice.
So yeah, it would be the exact same thing.
Yep.
I would totally do that. So if you are on the fence or thinking about it, absolutely do it. I did want to note that last week I was talking about the YouTube channel that I was referencing in the episode itself. And somebody's like, hey, you didn't actually mention who that was. So let me go ahead and fix that problem real quick. So the guy that I have been talking about is a guy named Arnie Sigurdsson, who is from, I think, Finland or one of the, Scandinavian Nordic countries. He's an engineer who's also an engineer, is the best way to know how to put it. And he's been phenomenal about like sharing stuff. And it's definitely one of those things where he's not a polished guy. He's a guy who knows stuff and is just trying to like convey it in a productive way. He's got like maybe a third of these subscribers that we have. But the stuff that he is providing is like insanely valuable. So we will most certainly be dropping his credentials in the show notes, because what he's doing is going to save my band like hours of setup time and a bunch of cartage. So cool. Arnie's the GOAT as far as I'm concerned. So shout out to Arnie.
Yeah, it'd be good to find out what Scandinavian country he's from and get that right. But
I'm sure
from that.
Everybody else, just look it up and you'll figure it out. All right, other things that worked. The Steinberger, I put a set of clear tone strings on. The folks at Clear Tone were nice enough to send me a few sets, and they've got some claims, and I don't know about that. The main thing that they're kind of touting is our strings sound better than other people's strings, and they last longer than other people's strings. So the Steinberger sounded great, so I can say that much. The amount of longevity remains to be seen. I will give the Clear Tones a proper like demo situation once I get the Strats back. That was kind of my plan all along, is to get the kind of an initial demo with the Strats with their original strings, and then replace them and do a follow-up. Speaking of follow-up demos, the Seymour Duncan Power Stage demo is going to be out by the time this lands. It should drop on Monday.
Nice.
Finally got the approval from Seymour Duncan and Emily Harris. Shout out to Emily, aka Get Offset on YouTube. She was the one who stuck her neck out and recommended me in the first place. Had a really great hang with Seymour Duncan out at NAMM, but she was the one who put us directly in touch with one another. She didn't have to do that, and I am eternally grateful for her being willing to put my name in the hat. So cool. Can't thank you enough, Emily, and super stoked to see that come out. And so if you see my face on Seymour Duncan's promo, I'm sorry, I guess, but that'll be coming out in the the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. Lastly, this one was the one that I had not prepared for at all and was probably the most blown away by. But as we were setting up for the gig last night, Christian, our front of house guy, was like, "Oh, hey man, I've got this this Telefunken M80. Do you wanna try that?"
Which is a vocal mic.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So back up. The Telefunken M80 is Telefunken's vocal, like handheld vocal dynamic microphone. And it comes in a lot of different flavors. And by flavors, I mean, it's all the same flavor, but like different colors and finishes.
Yeah.
So you can get it, like standard mic colored, or you can get it, rainbow colored.
Man, pink or blue or orange or whatever you want.
So in this case, Christian had a wood handled M80.
Pretty.
And so I was like, yeah, no, let's give it a shot. I was planning on using like an SM58. Like, I was hardwired because I wasn't going to be able to move around anyway, playing guitar the whole night. So yeah, let's do a hardwired situation and see how it does. I feel like I have played, I don't know, at this point, thousands of shows, different configurations and setups. The SM58 is a fantastic vocal mic. Like it is. Sure.
There's a reason it's the standard.
It has earned the reputation that it deserves. It's a fantastic, durable, outstanding microphone. And I have used different vocal mics in the band's existing setup from like EV. I've got a Super 55. I've used the Phoenix mics. I've used the Sennheiser 835 wireless setup, whatever. But interchanging those microphones, like I don't really have to like tweak my mix very much.
Yeah.
This M80, I had to gain my vocal mic down more than anything and readjust my entire mix. The presence and the frequency response of this microphone is unbelievable. Huh. My intermix like immediately sounded better. I have a really bad habit of crowding the mic. That's a thing that
yeah, me too.
I'm pretty good about doing it, here on the show, but when I'm performing, I'm up on them.
I'm right up in it.
Oh yeah, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
The proximity effect, you really want to be like in this parameter kind of distance. It sounds phenomenal. I'm not like fancy or particular or precious about gear. I am heavily considering buying one of these mics. And the other thing is that I went and I checked on Sweetwater. They sell a capsule version of this microphone as well that interfaces with the Sennheiser wireless that we already have. The retail for both of them is $250, and I was trying to figure out like whether the capsule would be more or less expensive, but it would make sense that like if either way, like you're just connecting it to something else, whether it's a wireless transmitter or an XLR cable,
or
they're the same price.
A wooden handle. I mean, the capsule's where the magic's happening.
Exactly. So they retail for $250. I'm sure I could say something sweet to somebody and get it for a little bit less. But
maybe, yeah.
If you're curious about what a microphone that isn't an SM58 sounds like, the Telefunken M80 might be something worth looking into.
Yeah.
And listen, there's other options out there in the world. Like I said, I've used mics from EV and Shure and Sennheiser. I really liked the sound of this mic. So
cool.
If you are in the market or you're thinking about it, don't hesitate. Give it a go.
I both hate and love it when somebody hands me a new piece of gear and says, "Hey, try this," and then I have to buy one.
Yeah. But listen, if you're doing those kinds of things, I like to get those things in the summer. You know what I'm saying? Because
good point.
I'm busy. The money's a bit looser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely thinking about it.
Be good.
And hoping to finally get the Sennheisers all wrapped up and fixed so that we can take the Phoenix mics out and use them as a floater set.
Good.
I've got to send my both lights back. That was a demo situation.
Oh, your deal was not to keep them. Oh, that's
no.
too bad. That's too
they were
bad.
they gave me a pretty solid discount. Full disclosure, there was a warranty issue in regards to the DMX response, so I was going to have to send them back anyway. So I was like, I still think they're fantastic. If situation changes down the road a bit, I've got things a bit higher up on the priority list right now. As far as lights go, I would absolutely grab a set. So for what it's worth, I still think they're worth it. But the task avoidance in me, like I've literally, the Sennheiser wireless mic that I've had has literally been sitting in a box with the RMA 4-minute for over a year. Just like literally, I'm looking at it right now. I'm embarrassed.
Oh, listen, my quad Cortex has needed to be sent back for repair since I've been, my excuse has been the surgery that I had in January that has been theoretically preventing me from getting it dealt with, although I've been out of the world doing things. So, yes.
Well, we can kind of put a pin in that. We can come back to it because we have some other stuff to talk about.
We do.
So listen, like so many wins. It's been phenomenal. Like I said, I needed a gig like this, especially after the gig before this where we had like a bunch of technical issues. Everything was like as smooth as it could be. So it wasn't necessarily a flawless show, but like the stuff that normally stresses me out wasn't bothering me at all. And I felt super present, able to like deliver, and had a blast. And it was great.
Awesome.
Feel good about it.
Very good.
As far as reviews, housekeeping stuff, nothing this week. If you want to be featured on the show, the easiest thing to do is to, leave a review or hit us up. Definitely got some responses in regards to the song survey. But here's the thing. We posted a Survey Monkey survey list, and I've had one of these free accounts for a gajillion years.
Yeah.
And they, we got some responses.
Survey Monkey has gotten stingy in the last little bit.
That's one way to put it. So they were like, we're going to delete these responses because you have more than 10. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And so in order to get the full amount of data, we had to pay $100 for a month of this service.
Rude.
So here's the deal.
We
got some responses, and we could have done a full episode about this like we were planning on.
And listen, you'd have been like, oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one. Because the responses were the ones you expect.
Absolutely.
But we spent some money to get your response.
Precisely. So we're going to let this ride another week.
Yeah.
I think it's important for you guys to get your say and for us to get our money's worth.
Yep.
So if you didn't get the survey done this past week, we'll put it in this week's show notes, of course, so that you can do that, so that we can really like hammer the ones that we really want to get into. So if you don't want to hear us talk about Mustang Sally or What's Up for Non-Blondes, you should probably fill out the form.
Give us some other options.
That's all I'm saying. In exchange for that, this was a thing that Dan and I discussed after we wrapped last week's episode, because things were a bit, protracted, that we had other stuff going on. And so it was like, oh, we didn't really talk about this. Yeah. And the thing that we didn't talk about is the massive announcement from Line 6, which was the announcement of the Helix Stadium line. And listen, I mean, I am a dyed-in-the-wool Line 6 Helix person.
Yeah.
And I watched the entire keynote. I'm sure you did as well, Dan.
Yep.
And we were talking about it in the Patreon Slack. Alongside that, the Name House guys. So the guys in 60 Cycle Hum and Landon and Henning and all of those guys. We were talking through all the features and that kind of thing. And I feel like the amount of folks who are, to use a phrase the kids use, glazing over this release is pretty much covered. Everybody who's stoked about it has explained why they're stoked about it.
And I'm kind of glad that we were like traveling or having other topics to talk about. The announcement has cooled by a couple of weeks at this point, and we can kind of have our response to it, which may be a little bit off to the left of where most people kind of came in about it.
Yes. And so, the world loves a listicle. So we're going to do, at minimum, 5 reasons why we're not interested in the Helix Stadium.
Yep.
And listen, I get that as a Line 6 fanboy, that like this is not necessarily the angle that you might have been expecting. The Seymour Duncan demo that we're bringing up this week is 100% linked to my Line 6 rig.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it would make sense that we would be like all on board this thing. But the fact of the matter is that there are a number of outstanding features, like features that are going to move the modeling world forward exponentially in ways that like we can only kind of begin to understand, but also don't work for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of other guitar players.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through a list of the 5 reasons why I'm personally not interested in the Helix Stadium, and you may not be either, with a couple of honorable mentions probably at the end of the discussion. So, without further ado, the first reason why I'm not interested in the Helix Stadium is the form factor.
Yeah.
I have really gotten accustomed to my little HX Stomp rig. I've got this tiny on-stage pedal board. It's got, exactly what I need and nothing else. And even with the reduced footprint of the Helix Stadium deal, it's still enough room for me to put almost 6 stomps like in a series to take up roughly the same amount of space.
I'm in the same place. I was in the Quad Cortex, which is about a third the size of the smaller of the new stadiums. When that died, I bought myself a Headrush Prime Flex, which is a little bigger than your Stomp and has a expression pedal. And so, yeah, I'm really not interested in getting back into sort of pedal board size Helixes.
Yeah. And the thing that they're really kind of touting is the UI. And listen, it looks incredible.
That looks really nice.
But the idea of having a massive touchscreen and scribble strips doesn't really make that big of a difference to me because I've pretty much got everything dialed in the way that I need it. I just need to like push the buttons.
Yeah. Well, and look, they're late to the game on that. Headrush was the first one out of the gate with like a touchscreen thing. Quad Cortex came in next with it. The next generation of Headrush kind of upped that game. So they're maybe the 4th to market with this idea. And it's a good idea. It's the obvious idea. At this point, it's the obvious idea, but it's not compelling as a sales proposition at this point.
I really think the focus mode interface is really cool. Like when you go into either the amp or the effects where you can kind of like drag to like corners and get kind of these presets.
That's cool.
It does 2 things. The fact that you can easily get like sounds that you would normally have to take, a significant amount of time to dial in, while also being educated as to how you establish those things by seeing the knobs kind of move in real time as they're moving.
100%.
Super cool.
Because that's the problem. That's the problem with this. It was my problem when I first got into Helix was sort of onboarding myself into dialing in a model. And so if there are nice sounding presets that I can understand how they got there, that's a good way for me to learn how to deal with the thing.
Sure.
It's smart. I think that's smart.
Yeah. So again, this is not necessarily like us dunking on the features. It's just looking at it from a practical standpoint and whether or not it solves a problem that we have.
Well, yeah, and if it's a compelling buy for me at this point is kind of where I'm personally looking at it.
Yeah. So on that note, and there's a couple of things. There's a practicality kind of functionality deal, and there's also kind of like an experiential solution-based kind of angle that we're kind of approaching this. So the next one is I don't need all the extra I/O that they're offering.
Yeah.
This new version has additional XLR inputs. It's got
expand D10, yeah.
Yeah, the extension for like the digital interfaces and that kind of thing.
Well, and part of it is Line 6 has been all in on this Variax digital guitar kind of thing that has its own connector to a pedal, and so they needed some way to support that. This device is how to do that. It's an external box. It's an additional buy. But if you have a Variax, and that enables some cool things. I mean, you can change tunings at the pedal.
Yep.
Right? Neat. That's neat.
Yeah.
But not something your garden variety corner of the bar guy is going to much need.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to need 4 effects loops. I don't know who's going to need 4 external expression pedals. I mean, there is that guy, but it's not me.
Yeah. So, and this will kind of make more sense as we go down the line as far as the conversation goes. Like if you're trying to set up like a massive hybrid rig that's got vocal processing, keys and clicks and automation and that kind of thing, that additional IO is going to be huge. But like I've played hundreds of shows with my HX hardware, made thousands of dollars. And I've never once been in a scenario where I was like, you know what I really need?
Yeah.
2 USB ports.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's got the stereo output. It's got USB audio. It's got MIDI control. It's got a lot of flexibility. You can do the 4-cable method. You can do direct to front of house. You can do half direct, half live in the room. Like it's got a lot of flexibility already in it. And there's nothing in the new version that is like, I have to have this, you know?
I've never said to myself, you know, my 3 effects loops are great, but I really need a 4th one.
Yeah. It feels like overkill.
It does. You know, I don't know if it's, I haven't had preview of the topics of your listicle here. Mm-hmm. But one thing about this that I'm a little annoyed by is they've been denying that there's been a Helix 2 coming.
Right.
For the last year and a half. And everybody's been like, oh, I'm going to hold off on buying a Helix right now because it's been around so long. Obviously, a second generation is coming. And Line 6 has been like, no. And then they dropped this. And it's not coming yet. It's coming in the fall.
Sure.
But I was annoyed. And as a product person, there's only so transparent you can be when there's a new release coming. But the fact that there was denial about that up until the announcement of it I didn't love that.
So let's put a pin in that because I think there's a valid discussion to be had, but I think we can get to it from a different angle.
Great.
Moving along, the whole modeling cloning deal. This is the first Line 6 product that features the ability to do profiling, cloning, whatever you want to call it. Yep. And the fact that everything is network-based, meaning that like there's this whole machine learning component, and they're talking a lot about the engine by which you can do this thing and how it is so sophisticated and all that stuff. Cool. I don't need that in my world. I've got a couple of analog amps that I really like, but at this point, I've been in the modeling world long enough where I have found models of stuff that they have already put out that exactly hit what I need.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or exactly enough for the stages we play.
Sure.
Right? I don't really need a precise, down to the wiring replication of some particular amp because I'm on stage playing we talked about Mustang Sally. I'm doing Mustang Sally. How precise do I need to be? You know, it's like, that's just not my gig.
Yeah.
I need a good clean. I need a good crunch. I need a good distort. I need a good lead.
Yep.
And maybe I need special effects for particular songs to match particular things that are happening in tunes I'm covering. That's, that last part is probably the bulk of what I need, frankly.
Yeah.
But I don't need to, nobody in my audience to be like, oh, that's not quite a 5150.
Sure. And I mean, listen, I've got an orange Rockaverb 50 Mark I that I absolutely love. It is my favorite tube amp of all time. But I've got a Rev Gen purple version of whatever that sound is, and it's in the hands of literally hundreds of guitar players at this moment. It was run on a much older firmware. It went viral without me even knowing it, and I built it on an HX Stomp. I don't feel like going to the trouble of profiling my actual amp would make that kind of impact. I feel like the fact that I was able to get the sound that I was looking for with the resources I had inside the box is the thing that matters.
Adam, hang on. You're saying that was not done using the entirely new Agora modeling methodology?
No way.
Oh my God. It's crap. Obviously it's crap.
It's not. It
ripped. Obviously. Okay. The point is, like, come out with a new technology. I get it. It's how you sell the next generation of pedals, but it doesn't mean that something people have been working with and using live on stages forever is suddenly junk. Like, these things are especially in a live environment where the details and nuances are so irrelevant, just not part of what people are hearing.
Yeah.
what you're wearing is way more important than that you're on the latest version of a modeling technology.
Right. If it rips, it rips. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what engine you're using.
Totally.
And, I don't consider myself like a tone snob or a gear nerd or whatever.
No.
But I've set presets to like multiple guys who have kind of been transitioning off of the real amp deal into this modeling world. And they're playing huge ass stages at this point. Like not insignificant people.
Yeah.
And it's enough.
It's enough.
It's enough. It's cool. It's a cool tech. It's not part of my workflow. I respect that it might be appealing to certain people, but in the world of profiling, you've got Tonex and Quad Cortex and Kemper, and they've done the thing. And I don't feel like there's something out there that's like, this is what I've been missing.
For sure. Listen, I bought back in 2013 or 2014, I bought an atomic amplifier. Mm-hmm. It's my first modeler. Then I bought a Helix LT. Then I bought a Quad Cortex. Then I bought this head rack. Each of those was an advancement on the previous ones. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. And it could be that I'm just having gadget fatigue at this point.
Sure.
But this announcement came out and I was like, yeah, it all sounds great. But
yeah.
And if I was going to buy my first one, it would be this.
Sure.
But my fifth one, I don't think so.
Well, and I would assume that the improvement that each of those purchases provided got more and more marginal as you went.
In terms of tone, for sure. Now, the thing is, the amplifier was about the size of a Stomp. Mm-hmm. The Helix was huge. Yep. And since then, it's been about reducing physical size.
Sure.
With an understanding that my audience does not care about the high, bouquet tone sniffing that the internet seems to care about. So I have not been making those decisions based very much on the actual tones they produce.
Sure.
Tones I was producing 5 devices ago was fine.
Yeah.
But it's been about working it into my workflow. It's been about making it deal with MIDI well so that it integrates with my system. Mm-hmm. It's not been about some new modeling engine that somehow is more accurate and really super nerdy guitar snobs really care about.
Fair. So I guess to say, like, to put like a bow on it, like cloning adds additional complexity to something that I have basically already functionally solved in my setup.
Yeah.
So if you've got like, if you're really precious about your signal chain, or you're, doing some sort of tribute that involves you like literally replicating the signal path of every iconic song that you're playing, this might be the answer to all of your prayers.
Maybe.
For me though, nah.
Nah.
Yeah. Okay, moving along. Next thing.
Wait, where are we? 4 or 5?
We're on 4.
4.
In my world, the next one is all of the audio wizardry. Kind of the DSP analyzation, what have you.
Yeah.
So if you went through the keynote, they were talking about like stem separation and multi-track playback and that kind of thing. Very cool functionality. There are a handful of floorboard units that do this kind of thing. The Voice Live Extreme does that, I believe, like yours does. Yes. And there's some others. And this is kind of the next kind of
it does it way better
iteration.
Than Voice Live.
Sure.
Way better.
Yeah. Also the fact that it can like literally like you can put in an audio file and it will like separate. That's pretty phenomenal. We were talking about this, literally last week and the week before. Yeah. But I don't need that. I just like I've already solved this problem.
Well, here's the thing. If you were going to be a solo guy playing along with multi-tracks, and that was your gig, I could see having that live inside your pedal and having a pedal well designed to deliver that would be pretty good.
Sure.
But that's not my use case.
Right.
I've pressed Band Helper into service for that, and it seems to be doing pretty well. Other people using other things, Ableton Live or other stuff. I don't know if you as a band leader driving those tracks, or whoever's driving the tracks for you, would want to have those come out of your guitar pedal. That feels a little bit specific.
Yep. we're having this conversation on the Patreon Slack about another piece of gear that, isn't related to this at all, which is it's another one of these all-in-one deals. So the idea that you would put your entire show into a single piece of gear gives me pause, because while it reduces the number of points of failure, it also means that if there is a point of failure, everything goes down.
Yeah.
And there's no sort of redundancy workflow built in that I'm aware of.
Right.
So if it goes down, you're SOL.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of rolls into point number 5. But yeah, we're using other systems for playback. I don't need my guitar modeler to do that.
Right.
And frankly, there's just other pieces of hardware and software out there with a much longer track record of reliability, and it's hard to put all of my eggs in this particular basket in regards to this.
And again, if your gig is, I play guitar along with tracks, I sing and guitar with tracks, which is viable. I've seen people doing that.
Sure.
Having that all live inside your pedal, pretty nice. But existing bands with existing solutions, this is not something they're going to consider.
Right. And that brings me to like the last point, which is the whole showcase functionality. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the yes and to the multi-track playback functionality. So in the Helix Stadium, there is a feature they're calling Showcase, which includes the ability to add MIDI commands, video, basically just like a lot of different kinds of automation in conjunction with your playback setup. And again, if you're in a scenario where you don't have these kinds of systems put in place already, it's pretty remarkable. And we are not opposed to automation. I've got Ableton set up where it can switch my presets. I've got the WIDI set up on my HX Stomp where it can do that. Bandhelper can do these things. But I think you're kind of getting into my point here, which is, if you're using this stuff already, if you've got any sort of show control hardware or Ableton Live, Pro Presenter, Bandhelper, like any other product in the marketplace, you've done the hard part already. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So the prospect of starting over from scratch on a brand new piece of hardware that theoretically doesn't even exist right now, I'm not really on board. Let's keep going down this particular thought process. So you've put your entire show into this unit. What is this unit? It's a guitar pedal board. Where does it sit? Well, it sits on the floor. Where on the floor does it sit? Well, it sits in most cases right in front of you at the front of the stage.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on putting your entire show into a piece of hardware that somebody could easily spill a beer into in the middle of your show?
Yeah.
And then everything goes.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
That, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm getting bubble guts just thinking about it right now.
Right.
I just,
Yeah.
To me, an all-in-one solution isn't as compelling as it might be to other people. And it's because I've spent the last 20 plus years doing this kind of work. Yeah.
You've learned where the weak spots are and where the risks are and what not to depend on 100%.
Yeah. It's too, to me, it feels too risky.
Yeah. Now, I'll say that's the reason I have not brought a laptop out to drive my show.
Sure.
It's why I've put that into Bandhelper on an iPad on a attachment to a mic stand, which is in reality no more secure than a floor-based solution. Feels more secure than an iPad or than a laptop rather, sitting somewhere. I don't know. I definitely feel the same thing, that having it inside a guitar pedal feels like investing more faith in it than it's earned.
Right. And on that note, the thing about laptop playback and automation deals is that at this point, the ability to set up redundancy and syncing multiple sessions together between multiple computers so that they automatically fail over, like the ability to run your playback on a laptop running Ableton Live or two laptops running Ableton Live is pretty well established.
Yeah.
And so the idea that, you know, one of your laptops could literally melt into the table and your show would not stop is valid.
Yeah.
And I'm much more willing to go down that path than put my trust in a as of yet unreleased product. So let's go into the honorable mentions. So you had one and I've got two. So why don't you go ahead and drop yours?
Number 6, reason number 6, I'm not interested. Helix Stadium floor, $1,800.
Yep. So that was actually my next one, which is
there we go. Stadium floor XL, which is the floor with an expression pedal, $2,200.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
You could get a MacBook Pro running Ableton Live for that.
You could.
And it could do all of those things.
Yes.
And then some.
Yes.
I don't think the pricing is unreasonable. And also, given the current circumstances and the supply chain and the tariff situation,
yeah,
there's a very good possibility that you know,
they'll come to market 20% higher than that.
Or
40% higher than that. Who knows?
Or some weird political thing happens and it's 20 to 30% less than that. I'm not going to strike that.
Yeah.
We'll cut it. We'll leave it in, but we'll cut it.
I don't think that's likely, but all right. Yeah. What are those leave in but cuts?
Yeah.
I just think compared to what's on the market, if it was your first buy and you were going to go all in on that whole feature set, maybe I could see it.
Yeah.
But anybody who's been around a bit and has already got some kind of modeling solution on board, that price is hard to understand.
Right. So the second honorable mention that kind of dovetails into what we just talked about is that the OG line isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so, you know what they're doing? They're going to continue to sell the products that we have been using, and they're dropping the price.
Ah.
So you were looking at the Helix LT when I bought it, I think was $10.99. It's now $8.99. And it's fluctuated like all over, whatever. But the price will continue to, like, you know, it'll stay where it's at or it'll go down.
Yep.
It will still provide outstanding value for people who are looking for that particular kind of functionality.
Yep.
In my world, if I had my druthers, you know, somewhere down the line, they would release this new modeling platform deal into a form factor identical or similar to the HX Stomp. And that would be the period of time where I was like, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see what see what it's made of.
Yep.
All of my stuff is backwards compatible. I can bring my existing presets into this new ecosystem. Everything's going to, you know, transfer over. And maybe I have more flexibility. I have more, you know, processing blocks. I can add more stuff. I can make the things that I'm already doing sound that much better because I have the ability to add more, you know, control over those parameters. Like,
the bottom line, you know and I know, our audiences don't care.
No. And there's very few features of this new product that will change that.
Right.
But I also want to make sure that if Frank or any of the guys at Line 6 are watching...
Who we do love. We love those guys. We love them.
If you want to send us one to shut us up...
For sure.
We will recant everything we said.
Listen, Frank, change my mind.
Yeah. Do it.
Come on.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
For sure.
And this doesn't mean that I'm going to, like, stop being a Line 6 fanboy.
Yeah.
I love my HX Stomp so much. It solves so many problems and has been rock solid and sounds great and doesn't take up any space and just, like, it does everything I need it to do. So if something comes down the line that requires very little of me to, like, transfer over, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
You know, pricing be damned. Like, if it sounds better and it makes things easier for me, like, I'm into it.
Yeah.
But the current version of everything, and listen, this can all change. You know, this product has not been released yet. You know, a lot of stuff is still vaporware to a certain degree. And there are folks out there who have had a chance to play through these, and they say that the modeling is phenomenal, and that remains to be seen for, the rest of us. But for right now, I will keep my tiny board with my tiny HX stomp, and I will continue to melt faces.
Yep. And listen, the availability starts June 25th, which means by the time this
for the pre-orders,
episode drops, you will be able to pre-order one and reserve your Helix Stadium online and in stores. So those of you who do say, like, you two knuckleheads don't know what the hell you're talking about, I'm doing it. Let us know why. What drove that decision? I'm interested.
Yeah. So hit us up, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Leave a comment on this video. We're all ears. Like, I felt like going over all of the conversations that I was seeing online, the positive stuff was being covered. And I don't feel like what we're saying is negative necessarily.
Not really.
I think it's just, it's looking at it from the practical perspective of a person who is using this gear already to do the gigs that we're doing.
Right.
It's not speculative. It's not aspirational. It's like, hey, I look at gear as tools to solve problems. And at this current juncture, given the information that we've been given, doesn't really do that for me.
Right.
So if you agree, let us know. If you disagree, let us know. But ultimately, I still think this is going to be a big deal. And I think just like all of the other conversations we've had about modelers, like, this is going to push innovation and move the whole marketplace forward. Hopefully we get a little less hate from this video than we do from the Dark Class one.
We'll see.
But listen, the only thing that I know people are more thin-skinned about than Dark Glass players. Maybe they're Helix players. So I guess we'll have to see.
We'll see.
That's not true. It's Fractal players. We all know that.
It is. They're the worst. Here's the other thing: is we're not a guitar channel. We should probably have our drummer and keyboarder friends on to talk about, like, what's new in that area of gear, because I do feel like you and I tend to turn this cover band thing into, like, when there's a guitar piece of news, we get very specific about that. And I feel like a fair chunk of our audience probably fast forwards through these.
Well, sure. But like, to be fair, like, we've, when live sound stuff comes up, like, we're not in just the guitar world, but we are two guitar players. Like, it would be kind of silly for us to not talk about these things.
No. We got to talk about it. I just think, what's happening with hi-hat stands these days.
Well, that's another interesting conversation, because I feel like the amount of innovation in other parts of the music instrument world may not necessarily be quite as prevalent.
Well, I don't know is the point. I have no idea, because I'm not in that world, but it'd be interesting to find out.
Drummers, is there more going on to drumming in new gear beyond we took this thing and made it digital, or we took this acoustic thing and we made it blue? Coverbandconfidential@gmail.com.
Yeah, we took this bass, we took this kick pedal and turned it from a chain drive into a band drive or something. I don't know. I literally don't know.
All hate mail can be sent to Dan Ray.
Bring it.
Dan at danray.net. No,
that's right.
Anyway,
that's right.
That's pretty much all I've got. I think, there's a lot to be excited about, and because we're talking about a thing that hasn't come out yet, the rest of it remains to be seen. But I'm just riding the wave. Like, had a great gig and just feel awesome. And I'll get my guitars dropped off with my guy this week, and hopefully he can fix those, and then we'll be on to the next thing. But I'm just riding the wave.
Very good.
Cool. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to support the show, you can do a number of things, but I'll go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, Dan Ray.
You have been listening to the Cover Band Confidential podcast for the week of June 27th, 2025.